wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
It would hardly be difficult to sympathize with Frodo's perspective here. He is, after all, on a quest from which he will almost certainly not return, a quest that dragged him away from the home he had known for some 50 years. The fact that this is the most he complains during their journey is really quite admirable. I would imagine most of us would spend far more of our time grousing if we had been compelled to abandon the comforts of Bag End and trek across half of Middle-earth and into the darkness of Moria. We would also probably envy Frodo the 51 years he spent in peace and relaxation in the Shire, but there's an oft-forgotten bit of personal history we would do well to remember. This isn't mentioned in the movie, but the reason Frodo lives with his bachelor uncle Bilbo is because both his parents died in a boating accident when he was only 12, or, according to some rumors anyway, they drowned when his mother pushed his father in and he pulled her in after him. Point being, Frodo is not merely lamenting the loss of a comfortable life, but also a renewal of familiar pains and desolations from all those years ago. But now, as then, he continues. He chooses to make what he can of the life that remains. As Tolkien himself suggests, this is one of the main values of fantasy, of the fairy story, as he might call it, applicability. We instinctively admire the heroes in these stories, and then, hopefully, we start asking ourselves, why? What is it about this little hobbit that means so much to us? Many things, no doubt, but in this particular instance, it is his resolve, with the help of Gandalf, to persist, despite the figurative and literal darkness that surrounds him. A persistence that could only be achieved because Frodo chose to leave behind the easy, carefree life he had known for some 40 years. He chose to pursue goodness, not happiness, and we ought to do the same. Now, that may strike you as an odd statement coming from an American. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are, after all, described in my country's foundational document as inalienable rights endowed upon humanity by God himself. And to be clear, I'm not so much disagreeing with Thomas Jefferson as I am stating my belief that we do not tend to define happiness in the same way as he would have in 1776. We think it means comfort, leisure, and freedom from difficulty or pain. Certainly, there were people in the 18th century or the Middle Ages or the ancient world who sought pleasure and ease above all else. It's difficult to say for certain whether the internet and social media have, in fact, propagated this mindset, or if they've merely made it seem more prevalent. But we do, at least in the West, live in a society that is objectively more comfortable than any that has ever existed. No matter how many dangers there may be in the world at large, which, unlike in years past, we can hardly escape knowing about, we still have at our fingertips an endless ocean of satiating comforts, even though many of them cause far more long-term distress and anxiety than they do lasting relief, pleasure, or joy. The happiness they provide is transitory, vanishing in an instant when the next tweet appears in our feed. Our societal ills go far beyond our collective smartphone addiction, of course. We seek pleasure and comfort in numerous other ways, in numerous other things that all prove ultimately insufficient. Whether men pursue status and power, women in cars, or video games and Mountain Dew, it matters not. At the heart of such pursuits is a desire to be satiated, to be comforted, but that craving will not and cannot be quenched. It is the nature of desire not to be satisfied, and most men live only for the gratification of it. Or, to quote a more contemporary but slightly less real philosopher,
"This place ain't no such thing as civilized. It's man, so in love with greed, he has forgotten himself and found only appetites."
And yes, Dutch is undoubtedly describing himself in that sentence without really realizing it. It's hardly a spoiler to say that this leader of a band of thieves and killers is in fact a hypocrite, but he would not be capable of commanding such a deadly cadre if he were entirely unaware of the truth. Dutch has accurately diagnosed a societal ill, one that was present in the time of Aristotle, persisted until the era of Red Dead Redemption 2, and remains constant today. Now, as then, we find ourselves engaged in an unending search for that which will finally make us happy, that will free us from anxieties, that will let us rest in comfort. Such a life does not exist, not on Earth anyway, and we should not seek it. Human beings are made for work, not drudgery, mind you, but meaningful work that is worth doing, that lifts up our fellow men, from which we derive not temporal happiness, but lasting joy. What's the difference? I'm sure if you ask 10 people, you'd get 11 different answers, but I would say that animals can feel happy. A dog chasing a ball, for example, will be delightfully so, but they cannot experience joy, which is deeper, more profound, and even at times contradictory. Any parent of young children can tell you about a time when it seemed like everything was falling apart. The toddler was getting into every cabinet he could reach, the baby had just had a blowout, and as a result of those distractions, dinner had burnt to a crisp. You probably wanted to scream, or cry, or both, but instead you locked eyes with your spouse and laughed. It made absolutely no sense to do so, but you laughed. You experienced a joy that transcended your present smoky, shitty circumstances and reached to the eternal. You understood that the tribulations of that evening were but a passing shadow that would remain only as an amusing anecdote in years to come, the telling and retelling proclaiming how wonderful and beautiful this life truly is. Not because it is easy or comfortable, but because it is inherently worth it, because you have unlocked a fundamental truth about human existence. Life, with all its pains, big and small, is good. If you look for truth, you may find comfort in the end. If you look for comfort, you will not get either comfort or truth, only soft soap and wishful thinking to begin with, and, in the end, despair. As is appropriate, those words from C.S. Lewis remind me of the story told by his good friend, in particular its ending. Nope, not that ending. Nope, other one. Still no. There it is. Upon returning to the Shire, and after having run off Sharky and his cronies, Frodo settles down at Bag End, inviting Sam and Rosie to move in with him after their wedding, and seemingly able to live the comfortable life he has now earned through his journey to Mordor and back again. But it was not to be so. The One Ring and all the evil it brought remains a pain for Frodo, as he says upon the anniversary of his wounding at Weathertop. "What's the matter, Mr. Frodo?" said Sam. "I am wounded," he answered. "Wounded, and it will never really heal." Ordinary comfort and happiness were beyond Frodo. They had been, without his knowledge, the price he must pay to save the Shire he loved so much, the same Shire that never heralded him as a hero, the home that he is eventually forced to abandon, knowing that it can no longer make him whole. Does this mean Frodo was deprived of true happiness, of joy? Hardly. In accepting his fate as ring-bearer, Frodo demonstrated the heights of humility, the virtue that is most concerned with truth, most specifically with acknowledging the truth about oneself and one's role in life. As the Stoic Epictetus put it, the divine will has assigned us our roles in life without consulting us. Some of us will act in a short drama, others in a long one. We might be assigned the part of a poor person, a cripple, a distinguished celebrity or public leader, or an ordinary private citizen. Although we can't control which roles are assigned to us, it must be our business to act our given role as best as we possibly can and to refrain from complaining about it. Wherever you find yourself and in whatever circumstances, give an impeccable performance. If we believe that happiness is tied to circumstance, to wealth, status, power, and all those things that men pursue endlessly, then naturally we will never be satisfied. We will not be content playing the role assigned us, but will instead seek out an ever more prestigious one. Is that how it should be? Should we be happy only when things are going well, then fall into despondency when our fortunes change? Not according to Aristotle, who states that the virtuous man will be happy throughout his life, for always, or by preference to everything else, he will be engaged in virtuous action and contemplation, and he will bear the chances of life most nobly. In other words, do not seek happiness. Seek truth, seek goodness, seek virtue. The good life, the life spent in service to others and in pursuit of truth and beauty, does not guarantee one form of happiness, the warm, comforting feelings that accompany good fortune, but it does ensure the consistent, enduring form of happiness that cannot be broken, even by calamity and tragedy. That is what story after story tells us, from Lord of the Rings to Red Dead Redemption 2. Though fictional, they are undoubtedly true. If we chase the objects of our base desires, we will never get what we want because we will always want more, and so we will never be happy. No man has ever achieved happiness by getting, but only ever by giving. This is our calling, to give of ourselves day in and day out, lovingly and unconditionally. Only then will we find joy. Only then will we become happy men.